Alright, so this video is about ordering rational numbers. I am aware that it kind of looks like ordering rational hashtags, but before there was a Twitter, this symbol just meant, number, like number one. Anyway, ordering rational numbers. I do have a number line here, and of course when I'm talking about rational numbers, I am talking about all numbers, including positive and negative numbers, and fractions and decimals, okay? So I have here my number line, and for a very long time, we have dealt with number lines that go in this positive direction, okay? So this direction is like your positive direction. Hold on. Okay, where numbers go from left to right and they get larger as they go. Okay, and that feels very comfortable and familiar to us. Okay, and of course over here, going to the left, are our negative numbers, and that's where the absolute value of the number gets larger as we go to the left. The number itself isn't getting larger. I think if you think about it, negative $4, right? If you owed $4, that would be having even less money than if you only owed $1. Okay, so the absolute value, and let's actually just talk about that for a second. Absolute value is written with symbols that look like this. So like the absolute value of negative 4 is 4 because it is 4 spaces away from 0. Absolute value is the distance from 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that written because I think that's important. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. Okay, that's absolute value, and the symbol for it is these two lines. Okay, and the absolute value of negative 4, as previously discussed, is 4, and the absolute value of 4 is 4 because they are both 4 spaces away from 0. Okay, so that's the absolute value. So I know you kind of want to say, well, these numbers are getting bigger going this way to the left. Well, their absolute value is getting larger, but their real value is getting smaller. Okay, because value always gets smaller as it goes to the left and larger as it goes to the right. And if you have trouble remembering that, I really would just think about money. Okay. And if you owe, okay, look here, this is like a guy, he's on the money. If you owe would you rather owe someone $1 or $5? Okay, so I'm just drawing myself like a little, and then there's the guy again, whatever. So owing $5, which would be negative 5, is less money. Like you have less money, you have less money. That's what I'm trying to say here. Owing $5 is you having less money than owing $1. Okay, so for the sake of ordering rational numbers, we're going to say that the further left we go, the lower the value, and the further right we go, the higher the value. Okay, and we're going to think about these. This is going to be our sample or our example. Okay, example. Okay, order from least to greatest. So least means, furthest left. Okay, furthest left or this direction, and greatest means furthest right, which is that direction. Okay, so, and the numbers we're going to be ordering are 3.5, 3 and 5/10, -1/4, -2 and 3/4, 0 and 1. Okay, and we're going to use this number line up here to help us. Okay, so the first thing I would do is notice that I have two negative numbers. Okay, and so these are negative. I have a positive number over here and a positive number over here, and of course 0 in the middle. Okay, and furthest left is going to be these two numbers, and furthest right is going to be these two positive numbers. Okay, and because these are negative, and you know, I've been dealing with positive numbers for a long time, I can tell that 3 and 5/10 is greater than 1. Okay, so the greatest is going to go over here, so 3 and 5/10. Okay, and right before that would be 1. Okay, so on my number line up here, I'm actually just going to put these numbers on the number line. Why? Because I can. Okay, so 1 would be right here. Okay, that would be 1. It's already labeled. 3 and 5/10. Well, 5/10 is half, right? So 3 and 5/10 is exactly in the middle of 3 and 4. So that's 3 and 5/10. Okay, and then before this 1, I've got the 0, right? Because there's my 0. It's already labeled, but I'm going to label it again. Okay, so now that I've dealt with 0 and my two positive numbers, I'm going to think about my negative numbers. Okay, 1/4, it's a quarter, right? And the first thing we kind of think about is if this were positive, what would 1/4 be in between? Okay, well, it would be in between 0 and 1. Okay, so -1/4 is going to be in between 0 and -1. And then I'm going to ask myself, well, which one would it be closer to, 0 or -1? Well, it would be closer to 0, right? Because it's about a quarter of the way. Okay, so that right there is -1/4. Okay, and -2 and 3/4. Okay, well, what would that be in between if it was positive? 2 and 3/4 would be in between 2 and 3. So in between 2 and -3, I have -2 and 3/4. And if this were divided into, 4 equal parts, so this would be -2. And then you just kind of have to think, like you're thinking backwards, because 3/4, 2 and 3/4 would be closer to 3. Okay, so right there would be -2 and 3/4. Okay, so the smallest number I have is -2 and 3/4, and then I've got -1/4, 0, 1, and 3 and 5/10. Okay, so that's kind of looking at the negative numbers.